You should come up next to the screen, to the right of the screen there.
Oh, so they can hear me?
Yeah, so they can hear you right. Yeah.
Okay, so now you'll endure another 18th century historian, the urban. So I'll follow like Emma's lead in terms of the things that I'll mention. Carl did give us a list of a few topics to discuss, starting with how we got here to participate in Guhp. So my original research, my dissertation that became my first book, proposed to look at African slaves and their enslaved descendants as urbanizing agents through specifically their process of achieving freedom through the practice of manumission. And I wanted, in the spirit, right, of African diasporic studies that were emerging right in the 90s into the 2000s, to develop at least comparative research that would allow me really to extract, right, Africans and their descendants from a national historical narrative to really see, you know, what is the role of this group of people who are inhabiting the Atlantic in creating these urban environments. So I compared Baltimore to Sabará, which is a mining town in Minas Gerais in Brazil in the 18th century, to explore things like the contribution of enslaved Africans and their descendants to the urban economy, the strategy of manumission as a form of labor negotiation, and then their shaping of different urban spaces and different urban dynamics. So my goal, right, was to really gain an understanding, right, of how a particular group of people who was politically disempowered, systematically marginalized, were still very fundamental in engaging the urban setting and imposing their own imprint on different social and economic dynamics. So from that project, right, again, as Emma explained, we started talking about, you know, where we could go with our interests, and we really understood then the need that to engage in discussions that were broader than just different imperial settings, right? So within our early modern period, right, that's one of the transnational frameworks, but you're still dealing many times, right, with an imperial framework. The African diasporic framework does allow for a little more of a global perspective, right? But we felt that even in embracing these frameworks, a lot of times studies ended up just engaging in a kind of comparison that was used to just reinforce the findings of one particular location, and not really engaging in a conversation from where we could extract greater narratives that might help explain things that are happening around the Atlantic world or different imperial worlds or global processes. So, right, this was the idea for the Global City Past and Present. And one of the other goals was to engage historians of the contemporary period and other scholars. So we made an effort to include geographers, urban planners, art historians, political scientists, anthropologists, and we managed to get a very diverse group of people in the network that we were working with. And it was a fascinating process to learn from other people and to be able to think in terms of other theoretical approaches and methodological approaches. And that's the type of experience that we're hoping we can continue to have and continue to promote through the Global Urban History Project. And as Emma was saying, right, we think that early modern people have something to offer to these conversations. And one of the things in our network meetings that became very evident was people embraced the idea of historicizing some of the processes that they were discussing for the contemporary period, right? Even political scientists and anthropologists seem to be engaging somewhat in that type of work. So we felt, there is a common ground here for a productive conversation. But another interesting, I think, overlap that we discovered was that people also felt that using analogies between the past and the present, right? Understanding analogous developments could also shed new light on, right, ways of understanding the processes that they were studying. So thinking about African slaves in the 17th, 18th century and illegal migrants in the 20th century. Right? Obviously, there's a very different context, but there might be some similar questions that one field can learn from another and can expand and enhance, right, the way that they are thinking. So my hope, right, is that through the project, we continue building some of these efforts of collaborative thinking, right? Not just engaging with each other's work to develop a comparison that allows us to reinforce something in our own research and our own findings, but really learn from each other how to maybe ask different questions, how to consider right, different frameworks, different methodologies. And so to facilitate that effort, I'll just speak for a little bit of one of the initiatives that I have offered to, right, put together for the project. I'm working with a student of mine on building a bibliographical resource, which we will have available on our website, hopefully by the spring, sometime in the spring. So we're building an Excel spreadsheet of all the bibliographical entries that our members included, right, in the membership description, right, of their work, which can be searchable by geographical period, chronological, certain themes and keywords. And our hope is that this will facilitate, right, a potential, right, recognizing of what other works that people need to read, who are other members of the project that we can set up form a panel for a conference, or maybe eventually right, plan a smaller workshop, read each other's works. One of the things I would like to do for my own teaching is also increase the teaching of global urban history, and so this could be a major resource for that as well. So this is one of the resources we hope to be able to offer to members, and we're expecting that the product of that is greater engagement, greater dialogue, and collaborative thinking about some of the issues we're interested in. Thank you.